Hello everyone, how are you today? Welcome to Tall Tales with Alex, your gateway into a universe of adventure and discovery. It's so great to have you with me for today's journey. This story is going to be a little bit different today. Today, we're delving into a world of absolute nonsense. So I'm going to be saying a lot of made-up things in this adventure. Things like blurgle-flurgle and stonky-ponks. Things that don't exist, so this means you can make up absolutely anything in your mind using your imagination. Maybe you could keep using your imagination to do some drawings of all the weird and wacky things that you imagine today. To the parents, guardians and teachers, you can find me at Tall Tales Alex on Twitter and Tall Tales with Alex on Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe to be the first to find out when a new story has been uploaded. Now let's dive into a world full of silly imagination. I want you to imagine the front of a shop. Welcome to the magical snow globe shop of Mrs. Cardinal. It's a very tall and thin shop. The bricks are deep red. There are 2 big windows on either side of the front door, and in these windows are hundreds of tiny snow globes. Hanging above the door is a sign. It's old and battered. The paint is faded from all the years the shop has been there. The sign reads, "Magic awaits." Let's walk in through the front door. Mrs. Cardinal's shop has so many snow globes on so many shelves that you can't even see the back of the shop, and the shelves are so high that you can't even see the ceiling. Nobody knows where Mrs. Cardinal came from or how long the shop has been there, because the shop has been there longer than anyone has been alive. Even though the shop is older than anyone knows, there isn't a single cobweb or bit of dust to be found. If you tried to count all the snow globes, you would be there for the rest of your life. Mrs. Cardinal's snow globes are magical, and every single one is different. They're magical because as we look at them, the snow globes take us to an amazing world far away from the one we're in now. Keep your eyes closed and let's walk over to a shelf and pick up a snow globe. What can you see? Wow! That's such an amazing snow globe! Let's get a closer look and see what's inside. Inside this snow globe is a wonderful and weird creature. It's unlike anything you've seen before. This creature is called a Stonky-Ponk. It's a small animal covered in pink fur. It has a very long nose and a very long tail. Floating all around it are tiny little silver bongles. Silver bongles are very small creatures that shine and glitter in the light. Silver bongles are what Stonky-Ponks eat. They suck them up through their really long noses like a hoover. We're delving into the land of Tonglewink today. Right, let's get silly. There once was a Stonky-Ponk named Bumble. Bumble was a very curious Stonky-Ponk. Normally, Stonky-Ponks were very lazy. They enjoyed lying around in the sunshine catching silver bongles with their long noses. A normal Stonky-Ponk would spend their whole life in their little village and never even think about leaving to see the rest of the world. They lived in fear of anything outside their village that they didn't know or understand, so they told themselves it was just better to stay exactly where they were. If you were to ask a normal Stonky-Ponk what was outside their village, they would either say, "Absolutely nothing worth seeing," or
"I don't know, and I don't care to find out,"
or
"The only thing outside the village are horrible, nasty and scary. Why would I want to leave?"
or
"Why are you talking to me? I'm trying to have my 10th nap of the day."
But Bumble wasn't a normal Stonky-Ponk. If you asked Bumble what was outside the little village, Bumble would say,
"That's an excellent question. I don't know what is outside the village, but I would like to find out. There might be more Stonky-Ponks out there. Or maybe we're the only Stonky-Ponks in all of Tonglewink. I once heard of a fearsome creature called a Bimbly-Fart. It's as tall as 20 Stonky-Ponks and eats everything it finds. I don't think I'd like to meet one, but it would be fascinating to see one.
The village that the Stonky-Ponks lived in was set deep in a jungle. The trees and hills around the village kept them well hidden from the outside world, which was exactly how they liked it. In the middle of the village was a massive tree. It reached right up into the sky. They called it the Great Greenie. The branches of this tree stretched out in all directions as far as you could see, and the enormous leaves of the tree were used to make the homes of the Stonky-Ponks that surrounded it. The flowers in the jungle all around them were beautiful and in every colour you can imagine. Bumble had always dreamed of leaving the village to explore the rest of the world, but had always been too young. Too young until now. Today was Bumble's umpteenth birthday, and that meant from today, Bumble was a fully grown Stonky-Ponk. That night would be Bumble's umpteenth birthday ceremony, called a Pongle party. Bumble had decided that as soon as the Pongle party was over, it was time to leave the village. There was no time to waste. Bumble's parents called to come and join them.
Bumble, dear, it's time for you to get ready for your Pongle party. Come and see what we've got for you.
So Bumble headed to see what surprise they had in store. His parents greeted him in the usual way that Stonky-Ponks say hello to one another. They raised their long noses in the air and swung them around in a circle.
Congratulations, they said. It's your umpteenth birthday, and you know what that means. You're now a fully grown Stonky-Ponk, which means it's time to give you your Kerbal crown.
Bumble had been so excited about leaving the village and exploring the world outside that he had completely forgotten about the Kerbal crown. On their umpteenth birthday, every Stonky-Ponk was given a Kerbal crown. It was a special crown that was made of a branch of the giant tree in the middle of the village. Bumble's parents passed the crown over, and Bumble took a good, long look at the crown. The wood had been carved into lots of little points that went upwards, except for one at the very front, which pointed forwards.
What does my crown say about me?
Asked Bumble.
Well,
said his parents,
each point on the crown represents the Stonky-Ponks in the village. As you can see, all the points go in one direction, upwards. All apart from one. The one that points forward, that's you. You've always been different to other Stonky-Ponks. We know that, and we love you for it. Ever since you were a tiny Stonky-Ponk, you've been curious about the outside world, always wanting to move in your own direction. Today is your umpteenth birthday, and you're now grown up and can do what you want. We know that you would like to leave the village, and we want to let you know that we're okay with you going. We're very proud of you. Just remember that your home will always be here for you. Whenever you want to come home, we will be waiting with a big hug.
They all embraced and set out from their home to Bumble's Pongle party. All around the great greenie tree were the Stonky-Ponks of the village.
Happy Pongle party, Bumble!
They all shouted. The Pongle party was something every Stonky-Ponk looked forward to. Every Stonky-Ponk in the village would gather together and play party games. The most popular game was the Pongle Bongle Parade, where all the Stonky-Ponks would line up and walk around the tree catching silver bongles from the air with their long noses. The silver bongles would glow as they floated in the air. Silver bongles and Pongle parties in Tonglewink, what more could any Stonky-Ponk want? I'll tell you what a Stonky-Ponk definitely didn't want at a Pongle party, and that was a scary Bimbly-Fart. All through Bumble's Pongle party, different Stonky-Ponks would ask,
"Aren't you scared to leave the village? What about the Bimbly-Farts? I heard Bimbly-Farts had big sharp teeth and breathe ice, freezing you where you stand."
Or,
"My cousin told me that Bimbly-Farts have huge hooves that they use to squash Stonky-Ponks."
Or,
"Well, my cousin's friend's doctor's aunt's son apparently saw a Bimbly-Fart and shrank down to the size of a pea."
But Bumble wasn't scared at all. Bumble knew that there was going to be so much to see and do in the outside world, so many new experiences. With any new adventure comes some scary and uncertain moments, but if you believe in yourself, then you can overcome anything. As the party came to an end, it was time for Bumble to head out and do what no Stonky-Ponk had ever done before. Time to go and explore the rest of the Land of Tonglewink. All the Stonky-Ponks of the village lined up to say goodbye to Bumble. They raised their noses high and created a tunnel for Bumble to walk under. Bumble turned around and looked behind to see them all. There were so many happy memories here with all these Stonky-Ponks. Bumble had been very lucky. But the excitement at making new memories and bringing back stories of adventures to the village was something Bumble was also very lucky to do. With a wave of the nose, Bumble turned around and strode into the wide outside world. The jungle was deep and full of all kinds of amazing plants and creatures. Being the first Stonky-Ponk to leave the village meant that Bumble wouldn't know what to call everything. But that meant that Bumble could create brand new words. Bumble was going to be able to name all different kinds of plants and creatures. How exciting! There was a tall, purple tree with big yellow leaves. Bumble had to think before saying,
"I'm going to call that a wump tree."
Around the wump tree were lots of vines that wound themselves around and around. The vines had little leaves in the shape of stars.
"This vine can be, a strassfump." There we go, my first discovery. The strassfump is a type of vine that grows up the wump tree.
Walking through the jungle, Bumble came up with so many different kinds of words, making sure to pull out a little notebook to write down what everything was. After a long time walking, Bumble looked down at the notepad and saw that along the way there had been Nimble Numbles, a little bird that flew from plant to plant at a very quick speed, nipping in and out. There were Bouncy Bonds, which looked very similar to the Nimble Numble birds, but unlike them, the Bouncy Bonds were very clumsy and they bumped into absolutely everything as they flew around. Wonky Nuffs were a type of flower that exploded in a big puff of colour when you walked past them. Screwball Scrumbles had been one of Bumble's favourites. Screwball Scrumbles were a big blue and yellow fruit that tasted very sweet. The Tuny Tubes had been a long plant that looked a bit like a hose pipe. As the wind blew through them, they whistled and sung, filling the jungle with amazing music. These were just a few of Bumble's discoveries. Eventually, Bumble came to a pool of water. It looked incredibly magical. The water glistened in the sunlight that shone through the trees. Bumble peered inside and saw lots of fish of all different colours. It was tough to name them all as they moved so fast, but Bumble decided upon Cardipoops, Yuffluffs, Swimples and Tortolups. Looking up from the pool of water, Bumble saw something moving on the other side. It was dark blue with scaly skin, apart from its tail, which was very fluffy. It had very short, tiny legs with tiny feet, a very round body with a huge neck that stretched right up to the highest leaves. It was eating leaves from the trees around the pool, chewing them with the most enormous pair of teeth that Bumble had ever seen.
"What sort of name could be given to a creature like this?"
thought Bumble. Could it be a
tumblefloss? No, it didn't look like a tumblefloss kind of creature. Maybe it was a sorkelsank. No, a sorkelsank sounded like it should probably be a small creature, thought Bumble. What about a tufflywuff? No, a tufflywuff sounds like it should have lots of fluff all over it, and this creature only had a fluffy tail. Ah, that was it! Bumble knew what the creature should be called. It was a Timble Tower. Yes, that seemed right. Hello, Timble Tower,
said Bumble. The Timble Tower looked around at Bumble.
I'm sorry. Are you talking to me?
It asked.
Yes, hello. What a lovely day to meet an interesting new creature like you. My name is Bumble. What's your name?
My name is Herbaldink. What brings you to this shady pool of water? I come here all the time, and I've never seen you before.
That's a lovely name. It's a pleasure to meet you, Herbaldink. I've never been to this pool before because I've never been outside my village until today. It's my umpteenth birthday today, which means I am a fully grown Stonky-Ponk, said Bumble.
Wow! This is so interesting. I've never met a Stonky-Ponk before,
said Herbaldink.
I've heard about Stonky-Ponks before, but none of my village have ever seen one. In fact, I don't think anyone in the jungle has ever met a Stonky-Ponk. We weren't even sure if you were real. You keep yourselves very secret and hidden. I've always wanted to meet a Stonky-Ponk. I've met every other creature in this jungle.
Bumble felt honoured. If this was the first time another creature in the jungle was meeting a Stonky-Ponk, then it was important to make a good first impression.
Well, from the first Stonky-Ponk to leave the village, it's a pleasure to meet a Timble Tower, said Bumble.
Herbaldink looked at Bumble confused.
What's a Timble Tower?
Oh, it's what you are. I've been making up names for the different plants and creatures of Tonglewink, seeing as there's not any names for them yet. So I'm Bumble the Stonky-Ponk and you're Herbaldink the Timble Tower, explained Bumble.
But I'm not a Timble Tower,
said Herbaldink.
I'm a Bimbly-Fart.
Bumble let out a little shriek.
No!
Herbaldink just blinked slowly and asked,
Why did you just make that noise?
Bumble thought for a moment.
I don't know. You're not scary at all. I was always told that a Bimble-Fart was 20 times taller than a Stonky-Ponk, with breath that could freeze me where I stood and big hooves made for squishing me.
Herbaldink shook its head, which took a while due to its very long neck.
I would never dream of squishing anything. Bimbly-Farts are very gentle creatures. We like to look out for everyone. I think there's a lot for you to learn about the Land of Tonglewink. It sounds like the Stonky-Ponks have been so scared of the outside world that they've hidden themselves away from it and made up stories that just scare them even more. If you all just came out of your village, you'd see all the amazing things there are out here. I tell you what, why don't you come with me and I'll be your guide? One day you can return to the Stonky-Ponk village and tell them about all the amazing things that they're missing out here.
Bumble thought this was a marvellous idea. There was going to be so much that Herbaldink could teach, and so much that Bumble could then teach the village. So off they set on their adventure to explore the whole land of Tonglewink together. And that is the end of this week's story. But don't worry, that's not the last time we will see Herbaldink and Bumble and the land of Tonglewink. We'll join them again another day for another journey full of absolute nonsense. Thank you so much for joining me on that adventure. What was your favourite part of the story? Who was your favourite character? I think my favourite character was Herbaldink. Maybe you could use your imagination to draw one of the creatures from the story. or even a brand new creature that you've made up. I would love to see what you create, and don't forget to tell me the name of your made-up creature. If you're enjoying Tall Tales with Alex, please don't forget to tell your friends about it. It would be amazing to share these journeys with even more children. There's loads more adventures to go on, so don't forget to subscribe and follow to be the first to find out when a new story is ready to listen to. Parents, guardians and teachers, you can find me at Tall Tales Alex on Twitter and Tall Tales with Alex on Instagram. I'm already looking forward to our next adventure. See you then.